Hi, Terry. How are you today?
I'm great, Erin. Thanks. You?
Thank you for joining us today for the Junior Achievement Career Speaker Series of Rhode Island. And we appreciate having you here today. So, if you'd like to get started, why don't you tell us about yourself and what work company you work for and your role there?
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I actually work for Fidelity Investments. I have been with Fidelity almost 25 years. It's crazy to think that this is actually happening, but you have 25 years. So we're in Rhode Island. Fidelity was coming to Rhode Island, and I was looking for a job, and I applied for a job. So I have had I was trying to count the other day. I've had 7 different positions within Fidelity over my almost 25 years. So it's been a robust career.
That is a long time at Fidelity. That is employment retention at its best.
Once you arrive, I had enough jobs that once I found a good company, I wasn't leaving, whether they wanted me to or not.
So, being with Fidelity for 20 plus years, where did you start at? And why don't you share your journey within Fidelity?
Sure. So it was funny, I had worked for a bank for 3 years. I had done telework and customer service, and then I was working for a smaller business. But I was looking for a career change, and I knew Fidelity was coming to Rhode Island. They were actually building the building. So I went to a job fair in Warwick, and I had one resume in my folder, which I would not suggest doing, but I knew the company that I wanted to go for. So I made a beeline for the Fidelity table, introduced myself, and within a few months I was hired. So I actually worked in Massachusetts for the first year because I wanted to kind of get into the door before the mass of Rhode Island people were trying to come into the company. And I started out as a customer service rep. I wasn't at that point, I hadn't had my degree. Fidelity actually helped me pay for my degree. When I got out of high school, I had been to 9 schools when I went into 9th grade. So I was kind of done with schools. I wanted to work when I got out of school. So I worked. And then went back to school at 28 instead of 18, when you should go to college. I went to college at 28, which again, wouldn't suggest it, took the longer route about it, but it worked for me at the time. So I started out as customer service, and I got my first promotion after 13 months of working for Fidelity, and the career path kind of just went that way.
What made you so sure you wanted to work with Fidelity that you only brought one resume to this career fair and knew that it was Fidelity that was your goal?
Yeah, I've always heard of Fidelity Investments. I didn't know a lot about mutual funds. I knew about bank products. I knew about checking and savings accounts because I worked at a bank. But I knew the idea of working for a large company really made me think about it. I like the fact that they had great benefits. I like the fact that you had vacation time. I was working for a company that we didn't have vacation time. I didn't have sick days. So I was really, and the benefits really kind of brought me there. And then I had also heard just great things about the company. They had been a forethought. They're the largest mutual fund company in the world. I had known that. And then as I started to research the company, I realized it was a place I wanted to be.
That is some really great advice and information to share with young people as they consider careers and what they want to do. And you took a non traditional route where after high school, you didn't want to go to college, you
Yeah,
waited a while, and you had mentioned a great benefit that a lot of young people don't consider when looking for employment, and that is help with tuition reimbursement. Would,
absolutely.
did you know that existed when you started with Fidelity, or was this a benefit that was made aware after being there for a while?
No, I knew that was one of the benefits. So when they talked about the benefit package, the tuition reimbursements, because when I started at Fidelity, within 6 months, I had enrolled back in school. So I knew part of the, getting my foot in the door at the company was great, and my work experience helped that. But I knew I really wasn't going to go far without having my degree. They took a chance on me on hiring, and a lot of times now a company won't look at you without the degree, but I had kind of the comparable work experience, so I kind of did it simultaneously. I don't know if I would suggest that, but I think if you're thinking about deferring college, then working, definitely helps. And I was in kind of that customer service experience, so you have a tendency when you're going to school, sometimes it's not always what you have. So we've hired people who have had, liberal arts majors or teaching majors, and they've ended up in financial services. So, sometimes when you go into that college path, where your career path ends up isn't always the same place. And that's okay. You know what? You've gone to school, you've gotten your degree, and that's great. But sometimes the road has a lot of forks in it when you're thinking about your career. And you can either go left or right. And sometimes you go left, and then the next time you might go right.
That is some great advice. And, taking advantage of a benefit such as tuition reimbursement is really smart.
Yeah.
Because college is costly. It can be costly. So having an employer to help cover even a portion of tuition, I'm sure, is helpful.
Absolutely. And actually right now, one of the benefits Fidelity has implemented over the last few years is that they're actually doing tuition help. So they're actually giving employees up to $10,000, and they just upped it to $15,000 reimbursement towards your student loans. So that's another great benefit that they didn't have back then, and luckily Fidelity paid for it. But for the students who go to college right afterwards and you have student loans, that's another benefit that you can think about for the large company that will help offset some of your student loan expenses.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to go back to a comment you had made earlier about being promoted after such a short time, starting with Fidelity. How were you put up for that promotion and received that promotion in such a short time?
Actually, I got a tap on the shoulder. So, I think one of the things that people think about is your reputation. When I started with the company, I was just, taking calls and, trying to do the best and learn the best. And I had a great reputation. So one of the managers that was in the department had known me, had worked with me, and actually came over and asked if I would be interested in a job where it would have been a promotion. So, the thought that I had a good reputation, they wanted me in their department, and it was a promotion. So that's one of the things to think about, when you're in your career, working hard, your reputation matters. People notice if you're, in early, working late, doing, following through, being a good team player. All those things matter. You kind of think, oh, you're just kind of trudging along, but people notice. And that has actually been the sake for a couple of the positions that I've had. I've had people, tap on my cube and say, we have a position open and we think you'd be great for it. Happens a lot.
So those soft skills, really applying
Yeah.
those soft skills, because soft skills matter in every position you have.
They do.
And really applying those and just adding to your reputation and how you work
Absolutely.
is really important. What is it that you do now? What is your role, and what does a typical day-to-day workload look like for you in your role?
Sure. So I'm a key account director. So what I handle is I've always been client facing, whether I was customer service, I kind of work on what we call the institutional side. So I work with banks, I work with intermediaries, I work with corporations. So if you think of those large corporations that have short-term investing, they invest in our funds. So I work with all of these firms to get our funds on their platform and also to support them. So the clients come to me, and then I kind of go out to all of Fidelity, whether it be legal or revenue or service. They come to me, I'm their point of contact, and then I go through all the different areas of Fidelity to solve their problems or to answer them. I can have portfolio managers if a client wants to speak to them to understand a little bit more about the funds. So I'm kind of a catch-all. So they come to me and I go and get their problems solved or their issues or whatever they have, whether it be conference speakers, marketing, legal. Fidelity's large. We have over 60,000 employees. So it's hard for them to kind of go through the corn maze that is Fidelity. So they come to me, and then I kind of go to get their issues completed.
Do you enjoy this role?
I do. I've been in this particular role for 12 years, and I love short-term investing. I mean, when you think about Fidelity, Fidelity is the largest provider of workplace. So if your parents have a 401k, chances are it's being administered by Fidelity. So you always think long-term. The funds that I work on is really short-term. It's operating cash. It's money. We can have money come in and go out 3 days later. It's just a client will put it's kind of like a cash instrument. So if you think about, you've got $10, you want to have $10 in 3 days, you'll invest it with our funds and you can take your $10 back. It's a little higher volume than that, but that's kind of what it is. It's that short-term investing, and that's kind of where I've been most of my career.
That sounds really interesting in what you do. What did you want to do when you were younger, when you were in middle school or high school? And how does it relate to what you do now?
I actually wanted to be an actress. So I loved drama. I think it was just being the youngest of two brothers. I was always the drama girl. So I always loved that. And in fact, I took drama in high school. And honestly, I actually think it has helped because there are many times that I've had to present. I'm running meetings. They're looking at me, and being on the stage and being, not being afraid to speak in public, that really helped because most people are very afraid to speak in public. And there have been times when I've been on a stage in front of an audience of 60, 70, 80 people that are listening to what I have to say. So that drama and that background really did help me to be able to speak, like an event like this, or, whether it be running a meeting or going to see clients, clients listen to what I have to say. So if I'm nervous or hum and that kind of helped me with public speaking. So I think that definitely did help a little bit in my career.
Yes, public speaking skills is an art.
Yeah.
It definitely is. And
Take
what was
the classes, it helps.
exactly? And what was your first job?
First real job, I would say probably would be at the bank. I had a lot of like babysitting and waitressing jobs, but I really consider like the first job was a bank, and it was just learning to deal with customers and customer service, and that kind of helped get me this job, which started out as service. And honestly, in America, we're such a service-based industry. There's not a lot of, products. We're service. So even though I had a banking service background, it definitely did help with financial services and being on the mutual fund side.
You just mentioned that you were a waitress, talking about providing services.
Yeah,
I think that working in the restaurant industry really helped develop certain skills. And
absolutely.
waiting or waitressing really develops those skills, those customer service, customer forward facing positions. Can you?
Exactly. When you think about it, you're waiting on a client, but you're providing a service. And if they're not happy with something, you have to rectify it. You have to solve it. You have to make them happy. It really doesn't change that much in the industries. The industries might change, but the basic service is really there. If a client's not happy or if a customer's not happy with their sandwich, you got to fix it. If a client's not happy with something that happened with Fidelity, we've got to fix it. So we really are, in America, we're a very service-based industry.
Yes. So having those entry level jobs, such as babysitting, waitressing, or working at a fast food counter when you're in high school, really helps to set the foundation.
Really does. And it gives you a good work ethic. And I think that's what it comes down to is that, if you can work there, it's the hardest work you can do. But that just helps give you a work ethic that you're going to follow on 25 years later.
That is some great advice. And listening to your career journey through Fidelity over the past 20 plus years is great information for students learning about employment benefits beyond salaries, such as tuition reimbursement and health insurance and time off. Those are some things that young students may not consider when looking at the world of work, but hearing it from a professional helps to put it into perspective.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice that you would give young students as we finish up our conversation?
I think that's the thing is like really should. When you're starting a job, you're kind of thinking about, well, what am I going to make? But the big picture is the benefits add into it. So I think one of the things that you can kind of think about is your reputation matters. It does help in your career, and to think about that big picture of, yes, I want to make, X amount of money, but there's retirement, know the fact that if you've got a company that's matching and you're putting money towards retirement, that's a huge benefit. If it's health insurance, because one of the largest out-of-pocket expense people pay for is healthcare. So if you're working for a company that has health insurance, your actual pay is all of those benefits as well. Tuition reimbursement. Fidelity here, we have a gym, we have a cafeteria. There's so many great things that you can think about that can really help. So when you're thinking about a job, take into consideration something other than just the paycheck, because that makes a big deal. And as you're older, you're going to be carrying benefits for your spouse or your children, and that makes a big difference. You want a company that's going to grow with you for all the aspects of your life, and that's important.
Thank you so much, Teri. I really appreciate your time and your advice and information and the career journey that you shared with us and for the young students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good luck, everybody. Happy
Thank
holidays.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.